Lynda Randle, a beloved TV personality and powerful voice in the world of gospel music, found herself at the center of a moment so shocking it left the courtroom and the nation stunned. A place usually dominated by the quiet murmur of legal jargon and the steady rhythm of due process suddenly turned charged with raw, unbearable tension as the judge prepared to announce her fate. Standing at the center of it all, Lynda's face was a canvas of emotions: hope, dread, disbelief. No one in the room could have predicted what was about to happen. The judge's words pierced through the stillness like a thunderclap, each syllable carrying the weight of an unimaginable reality. The courtroom froze. The air itself seemed to grow heavier. Lynda's expression shifted, first to shock, then to something far more terrifying. Before anyone could fully register the gravity of the moment, Lynda Randle collapsed to the ground. Her legs gave way, her body folding under the invisible weight of what had just transpired. Gasps echoed across the room. Was it the magnitude of the sentence? Or something far deeper, more personal? As people rushed to her side, trying to help, the atmosphere shifted from tense anticipation to utter chaos. What caused this visceral breakdown? The questions came fast and without answers, leaving the public reeling and desperate for the truth behind Lynda's dramatic fall and the dark new chapter she appeared to be entering. Lynda Randle has long been a symbol of positivity, faith, and unshakable spirit. Her voice has lifted countless hearts, her messages reaching people across generations. For years, she had crafted an image of grace and authenticity, rooted in faith and community. But recently, troubling whispers had begun to swirl. Rumors of legal trouble, allegations of financial misconduct, and even hints at a looming prison sentence. It all began with what seemed like a routine audit of her charity foundation. But according to insider reports, financial records didn't add up. Discrepancies hinted that money intended for the underprivileged may have been misused. The whispers turned into murmurs of money laundering, fraud, and misappropriation of charitable funds. Though the full extent of the allegations remained hidden, public speculation exploded. Longtime fans struggled to reconcile the accusations with the woman they had come to trust and admire. To them, Lynda was a beacon of hope, not someone who would ever misuse her platform or her mission. Yet, as more rumors surfaced, they began to wonder, how serious were the charges? Could the beloved gospel figure really be at the center of such a scandal? Some reports claimed that Lynda had embezzled large sums from donations meant for her ministry. Others suggested a possible cover-up, with whispers of loyal insiders trying to shield her from the harshest consequences. The confusion was profound. Was this the result of a smear campaign, or had Lynda truly crossed a line that couldn't be undone? Even as speculation ran rampant, Lynda remained silent. No public statements, no explanations. Her legal team gave nothing away. That silence only made things worse. Fans, desperate for clarity, found themselves caught between loyalty and doubt. The media pounced, feeding off the growing uncertainty. And as each day passed, the distinction between rumor and truth grew more blurred. Pressure mounted. People wanted answers. They needed to hear from Lynda herself. But with no response, the mystery only deepened. Was she hiding something, or was the situation more complex than anyone could comprehend? Could it be that even Lynda didn't know how to respond? As all eyes turned to the courtroom, the silence was almost unbearable. Lynda Randle, once a portrait of calm and confidence, stood trembling before the judge. The woman who had given strength to so many now seemed to be drawing from her last reserves. Her heart pounded, her hands shook, and the room felt smaller with every passing second. The judge began to speak. It had all begun with whispers, barely noticeable at first, small suggestions of mismanaged funds, missing donations, irregularities in bookkeeping. But now, those whispers had snowballed into formal charges and public outrage. The prosecution painted a damning picture: altered documents, suspicious financial records, and key witnesses claiming Lynda's direct involvement. The once celebrated gospel icon now stood as the accused, her legacy on the line. She fought to remain composed. But inside, she was unraveling. This wasn't just about her reputation. It was about her freedom, her family, her faith. How had it come to this? Then came the words that would change everything. Miss Randle, the evidence before this court is clear, and the charges are severe. You have been accused of embezzling charitable funds, misappropriating resources, and deceiving the public for personal gain. The breath caught in Lynda's throat. Her knees trembled beneath her. She held onto the podium for balance. The courtroom seemed to close in around her. And when the judge asked, "Are you guilty of these charges?" she opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her thoughts were spinning, her emotions churning. She couldn't form a single word. Behind her, her family sat frozen in disbelief. Her husband looked pale, her children stunned. They had always seen her as the rock, the anchor of their family. But now, she looked as fragile as glass. And then, the unimaginable happened. Lynda's body swayed, her face went pale, and before she could steady herself, she collapsed. The room erupted. Cries of concern, rushed footsteps, hands reaching out to help. But Lynda was unresponsive, her body limp, her mind somewhere far from the chaos around her. The judge called for a break, and medical personnel were summoned. She was moved gently to a bench, head in her hands, breathing shallow and uneven. The trial had come to an abrupt standstill. Her loved ones gathered around her, trying to comfort her, trying to make sense of what had just happened. But there was no comfort to be found. Not in that moment. Not with the eyes of the world watching. Across social media and news outlets, the courtroom collapse made headlines. People were desperate for answers. Was she guilty? Was this a setup? Had Lynda been falsely accused? Or was there a darker truth beneath the surface? The hardest part for Lynda wasn't just the verdict. It was the collapse of everything she had built. Her music, her ministry, her message. All of it now tainted. All of it in question. And yet, through the fog of confusion and heartbreak, she thought about the people she had helped, the communities she had uplifted, the faith she had preached. Could it all have been in vain? When the court reconvened, Lynda forced herself to stand. Her body trembled, her heart still aching, but she stood. Because despite everything, the shame, the loss, the pain, giving up wasn't an option. Not yet. The judge's voice rang out once more. After careful consideration of the evidence and testimony presented, the court finds the defendant guilty of embezzling charitable funds and misappropriating donations for personal use. The words cut through the room like a blade. Guilty. Lynda Randle had been convicted. Her world shattered in an instant. Her hands trembled, tears welled in her eyes, and the courtroom around her blurred into a haze of muted sounds and swirling emotion. She couldn't hear the judge anymore. All she could feel was the crushing weight of finality, of judgment, of betrayal, perhaps even of herself. Behind her, her family sat in stunned silence. Her children, once filled with admiration, now looked at her with fear, confusion, heartbreak. How would they survive this? How would they move forward? Lynda had spent a lifetime sharing love, light, and music. But now, she stood accused and convicted, her faith shaken, her future uncertain. And yet, in the silence that followed, one truth remained. The story of Lynda Randle was not over. Whether it would be a story of redemption or ruin remained to be seen. They had always been so proud of her, so incredibly proud. Proud of her career, proud of the unwavering way she had built her life on a foundation of faith and integrity. She had been their inspiration, their shining light. And now, she had failed them. Worse, she had failed herself. As the court proceedings dragged on, Lynda tried to stay focused, tried to remain present. But the weight of the verdict pressed down on her like a mountain. Her mind spiraled, unable to resist replaying the events that had led her here. The whispers, the accusations, the lies, all of it had spread like wildfire, untamable and merciless. She had spent countless sleepless nights searching for answers. How had everything unraveled so completely? How could something she had poured her soul into, built so carefully and prayerfully, collapse in a matter of weeks? It was unfathomable. She had never imagined her story would end like this. The damage was already done. She knew it in her bones. No matter what came next, her reputation was already in pieces. The public would forever tie her name to this scandal. The trust she had so painstakingly earned, the trust of her fans, of her peers, was shattered. She could explain. She could tell the truth. But deep down, she feared it wouldn't matter. Because sometimes, even the truth isn't enough. As the judge's voice echoed through the courtroom, calling for the next part of the proceedings, Lynda's thoughts drifted. She saw flashes of her past, her music, her career, the stages she had stood on, the souls she had touched with her songs. Her faith, once her anchor in every storm, felt so far away now. And she thought of the people who had stood by her, who had believed in her from the very beginning. She had always tried to live with integrity, to be a woman who did the right thing, no matter the cost. But now the world saw her differently. Now she was the woman who had betrayed that trust, the gospel artist who had fallen from grace. The emotions inside her, bottled up for so long, finally broke through. The tears came, uncontrollable and raw. A sadness deeper than she had ever known rose from within and began to consume her. The courtroom was quiet, eerily quiet. Only the rustle of papers and the soft movement of feet filled the silence. And then Lynda collapsed. Her legs gave way as though the weight of everything she carried finally became too much. She crumpled to the floor, unable to hold herself up. Her family rushed to her side, fear etched across their faces. Her husband, eyes full of pain, lifted her gently into his arms and whispered soothing words only meant for her. But she couldn't hear him. She couldn't hear anything at all. The only sound was the deafening echo of her own heartbreak. She had lost everything. The trust, the respect, the very identity she had worked so hard to build. And now she was left with only the fragments of a life that once felt unshakable. As the courtroom came alive again with murmurs and motion, Lynda's mind traveled backward, back to the woman she used to be. The woman who had walked into rooms with her head held high. The woman who faced adversity with faith, who carried hope in her voice. She had always believed in redemption, in the idea that no matter how far you fall, there is always a path to rise again. But now she wasn't sure. Could she really come back from this? The verdict, the fallout, the public condemnation, it was too much. It felt impossible. And yet, despite the devastation, despite the doubt, one thing burned quietly inside her. She wasn't ready to give up. She didn't know how she would recover, but she knew she had to try. She was determined to rebuild, not just her name, but her spirit. The road would be long. It would be lonely, and it would be hard, but she would walk it. The courtroom buzzed again with soft conversation and footsteps, but for Lynda, time had slowed. She had just received the verdict, one no one had seen coming, not even her. She had always been the embodiment of her message: hope, healing, and resilience through faith. But now the very foundation she stood on had cracked beneath her, and as she was helped out of the courtroom, disbelief cloaked her like a second skin. Shame tugged at her every step. The first reactions came fast. Her fans, people who had loved her for years, flooded social media. Many couldn't believe it. How could Lynda Randle, the voice of inspiration, the light in their darkest hours, fall like this? How could she betray everything she had preached? Some wept in their comments, others defended her fiercely. Lynda's music got me through the worst time of my life, one fan wrote. She's strong. I refuse to believe this is the end. But not everyone was so forgiving. Some demanded her removal from the stage, declaring that she no longer deserved the platform she once commanded. They didn't care about explanations. In their eyes, the betrayal was too deep. Her family was torn. Her husband, her anchor, was heartbroken. He had believed in her when no one else had. Now, even he struggled to understand what had happened. Their children, caught in the eye of the storm, were shaken to the core. Lynda had been their hero, their example. Now they were forced to reckon with a truth they never saw coming, that even the strongest people can fall. Her friends and peers in the gospel community were stunned. Some mourned what they saw as the end of her career. Others believed her actions, regardless of her intent, had left an indelible mark that could never be erased. And then there was the media. They pounced on the drama like wolves. Headlines screamed betrayal and disgrace. Gospel star falls from grace, blared across screens and newspapers. The more salacious, the better. But through all of it, through the chaos, the heartbreak, the judgment, Lynda knew one thing. She wasn't done yet.